weeknights on 5.
From around the world and from CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
Good evening. The curtain of coal that tonight stretches over most of the nation is something you can tell your great-grandchildren about. It is of history-making proportions. Not in this century has there been anything like it. Across the Midwest, through the Northeast, and on down deep into the South and Southwest, city after city reports record low temperatures. An estimated 40 weather-related deaths have been counted since the big freeze began for real Saturday. More deaths are expected in the cold tonight. Our regional coverage begins with Bob McNamara in Chicago.
All across the Midwest, gusting frigid winds, drifting snow, and blizzard-like conditions stranded travelers much of the day. In Michigan, dozens holed up in truck stops and motels after Interstate 94, the major highway between Chicago and Detroit, was closed by drifting snow.
We were escorted off the road, told that's as far as we're going.
In Minnesota and the Dakotas, shocking winds and cold again today pushed wind chill factors into the 80s and 90s below. And gathering ice, now 2 feet thick, stopped towboat traffic on the Illinois River by clogging a lock and dam at Peoria. But the worst the weather brought was a rash of fires. In Illinois, fires killed 3 since the weekend. In Minnesota, 4. Chicago's temperature climbed to 4 above today, 30 degrees warmer than yesterday's all-time record low. But again, hundreds of cars had to be coaxed to start in the bitter cold.
The Chicago closings first, the American Institute.
Nearly every Chicago and suburban public and private school was closed to conserve heating oil and natural gas today. And hundreds called Chicago City Hall, saying they'd gone the night with little or no heat.
Yesterday, it was really cold back there. And they got to put sheets and stuff over the door and over the windows in the back to keep the air from coming in.
Air travel from Chicago to blizzard-bound upstate New York came to a stop until cities such as Buffalo and Syracuse dug out.
We've canceled all of our flights to Buffalo and to Rochester and Syracuse, and now Albany looks like it's going to be a problem too.
Tonight, weather forecasters predict a slow warming trend for the Midwest, but temperatures may go up only a few degrees a day before another predicted heavy snowstorm. Bob McNamara, CBS News, Chicago.
It was so cold in the nation's capital that a local TV station felt obliged to remind everyone that this was still the Washington Monument, not the North Pole. Washington escaped snow but still managed to tie up traffic with frozen water main breaks on some strategic thoroughfares, and with single-digit temperature and the wind chill factor at 35 below at times, fountains froze and they skated on the reflecting pool. Some things didn't change. The politicians were still talking outside the White House, but today it didn't take them nearly as long to make their cases.
Wow, it is cold.
Washington can manage a protest rally in any weather, but the few who braved the chill for a pro-ERA demonstration found even simple things like burning someone in effigy can be a problem in weather like this. It was a serious problem for Washington's growing population of street people, and it was even worse to the south as record lows were set in many areas. In Sunbelt cities such as Dallas, the scarcest commodity was sun. Dallas schools were closed, kids sent home because it became impossible to heat classrooms when gas pipes froze. In Atlanta, it was 5 below zero. It hasn't been that cold there since 1899.
In terms of our longer range forecasts, the monthly forecasts, the remainder of January and the remainder of the season, I think we expect a similar kind of pattern, but nothing nearly as severe. We would perhaps expect a few more cold outbreaks, but nothing of the magnitude, of course, that we've seen.
Even in South Florida, the temperature dipped to the 40s. That didn't stop a few from swimming, but with colder weather on the way, others were buttoning up. Tomatoes were being picked green, and smudge pots were being set out in the fields. And in North Florida, where temperatures were in the teens last night, there was a picture postcard seen at the state capitol fountain in Tallahassee. But don't expect the Florida Chamber of Commerce to send out many postcards with this picture on them. Bob Schieffer, CBS News, Washington.
In the Northeast, Mother Nature dumped on Buffalo the worst, virtually shutting the town down, stranding travelers, closing schools. A blizzard that rivaled the big one of '77 hit today. It dumped more than 2 feet of snow, buffeted by winds up to 53 miles per hour. One 55-year-old man froze to death while sitting in his car. Only the hardy withstood the wind chill at 60 below to start the task of digging out. The blizzard warning remains in effect. The forecast? Continued cold and at least further flurries. Outside Pittsburgh, the digging was more grim. A search for bodies. All 5 children of the Boer family were sleeping early this morning when their house burned down. Firefighters say the blaze was started by an overworked heater trying to keep the family warm, and that all might have been saved if half the firefighting equipment hadn't frozen. Another fire in Paterson, New Jersey left 9 families homeless. This one started by children trying to keep warm with a burning stove. Again, the weather froze the firefighters out. 7 of them were injured, 2 serious cases of frostbite. In New York City, the homeless clustered desperately to try and keep out the near-record cold. Some by a barrel of burning wood, another huddled up to a heat vent on a sidewalk. The bone-chilling cold and biting wind chill were not only problems for people outside today in the Northeast, but for some inside as well, those without adequate heat. The city's emergency heat hotline has gotten 22,000 calls since the cold wave started. Mary Roach has been without heat and hot water for 2 weeks.
Every day it's getting worse and worse, and now it is really unbearable.
And city officials don't expect calls like hers for help to let up, at least not until the cold does, and the National Weather Service says that may not be until early next week. Jane Wallace, CBS News, New York.
As if the wind, snow, and ice were not enough, part of New England had a minor earthquake today, too. Buildings shook in Cheshire, Massachusetts, in Boston, and in part of New Hampshire. No damage, no injuries reported, just sinking sensations and exasperation. This was New England's second small earthquake in 3 days. Throughout much of Europe, too, people are shivering and suffering from extraordinary cold. Doug Tennell reports from London.
The snow brought transport in Belgium to a halt today, closing roads, schools, and the Brussels International Airport. The Arctic weather stopped 3 NATO foreign ministers from reaching NATO headquarters in time for the opening session of the emergency meeting on Poland. In Poland, soldiers and militiamen evacuated civilians from several provinces. Ice-choked rivers have inundated vast stretches of Polish farmland, threatening a vital oil pipeline from the Soviet Union and an oil refinery that produces more than half of Poland's oil products. In France, about 100 rail passengers were stranded for over 8 hours on board a stalled train without heat or light. Snow and some freezing rain slowed traffic on West German autobahns to a crawl, and Britain began digging out from some of the worst winter weather here in over 20 years. Large parts of Wales and southwest Britain were virtually cut off from the rest of the country by drifting snow and icy roads. London's tabloids told the story. Record low temperatures even forced the Gurkha Guards at St. James's Palace to work a 1-hour shift instead of the normal 2. Not that 14 degrees below zero is such bitter cold, but so few in this normally wet but warm kingdom are prepared for it. While farmers reported millions of dollars in livestock lost, even some of London's wildlife was left out in the cold. The peacocks in Holland Park sought the warmest bush around, while other creatures there were left to cope as best they could with snow between the toes. Doug Tennell, CBS News, London.
Know what? For intestinal gas pains and pressure, I found these Gas-X tablets so much better.
Watch. Intestinal gas bubbles are much like bubbles in beer. Add the leading antacid here, Gas-X here, and stir. 1 minute later, antacid shows little change, but Gas-X breaks the gas bubbles. They're almost gone.
For intestinal gas pains and pressure after meals, get medically proven relief. Gas-X.
Mrs. Clay, are you all right?
Oh, fine. Sort of.
Constipation?
I wish I felt better about my laxative.
You'll feel good about the Overnight Wonder.
X-Lax?
Give me your hand. Meet the Overnight Wonder.
This little pill?
that little pill, or original chocolated tablets, X-Lax gently restores your system's own natural rhythm.
So it is gentle.
You'll feel the difference in the morning. Unflavored pills or chocolated tablets, X-Lax is the overnight wonder.
President Reagan, facing the prospect of more huge deficits in future federal budgets, talked with Republican congressional leaders today about how to handle them. Bill Plant has details.
Some leaders of the president's own party in the House of Representatives told him today that he will have to consider raising taxes if he hopes to keep the budget deficit in the next 2 years below $90 to $100 billion. GOP leader Bob Michael, who said he'd have a tough time getting deficits that large through Congress, said he thought Mr. Reagan had softened his previous stand that there would be no tax increases.
I think he's just facing reality, and I think, frankly, his charge is to the Congress to try again on the expenditure side, and failing the significant reductions on the expenditure side, maybe some other option will have to be pursued.
Several of the president's advisors have urged higher federal excise taxes on alcohol, tobacco, and gasoline. One of the original architects of supply-side economics is unconvinced the deficit will reach $100 billion and remains totally opposed to tax increases.
I'm still convinced that the president is going to reject this campaign that's being waged against his policy, and he will come down on the side of no tax increase.
Virtually everyone at the White House believes there will be new taxes. In fact, some officials continue to say that Mr. Reagan has informally approved excise taxes. But as they have so often done in the past, White House aides stand on the technicality that the president has reached no final decisions, that he is keeping his options open until the State of the Union message 2 weeks from now. Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
Justice William Rehnquist took part in oral argument of cases before the Supreme Court today and appeared untroubled by ailments which had plagued him. Rehnquist recently was hospitalized for a chronic back ailment and subsequently suffered a reaction to the painkiller drug used to treat him. Reporters today noted virtually no trace of the stuttering and slurring of speech Rehnquist displayed over the last year or so. Among its rulings today, the Supreme Court rejected the death penalty for sex crimes against children. Without comment, the justices upheld a Florida Supreme Court ruling striking down such a law.
You're not too young for Geritol, but it's Geritol. With the iron that you should take, Geritol. And you want to stay in good shape, Geritol. And do what's best to look great. You're not too young for Geritol.
Get your rest and exercise and take Geritol every day. Each Geritol tablet is a special combination of potent amounts of iron and lots of important vitamins.
You're not too young for Geritol.
You know, I'm only 22, and of course I don't want to look old, so I was shocked when my father noticed little lines a few years ago. That's when I began using Oil-Valet Beauty Fluid. Oil-Valet is light and non-greasy, and my skin feels softer and looks healthier. Next time I went home to visit, my father said, "Wow, you look great. You look younger. What's your secret?"
Share Lee Vardy's secret, Oil of Olay. It can help you look younger, too.
A brief special meeting of NATO foreign ministers in Brussels today on sanctions against the Soviet Union produced some loud barking, but not much of a bite. Nevertheless, Secretary of State Haig called the results a, quote, solid success for the alliance. The Western allies condemned martial law in Poland and Soviet support of what they termed the systematic suppression of political freedom in Poland. But as for actually supporting U.S. economic sanctions, the allies only promised to consider sanctions of their own on a country-by-country basis if the Polish situation doesn't improve soon. In Moscow, as Polish Foreign Minister Czerek met with Soviet Foreign Minister Gromyko, the news agency TASS was unusually quick in responding to the NATO statement. Ignoring the threats against the Soviet Union, TASS said the NATO statement is tantamount to what it said is inadmissible pressure on a sovereign state, meaning Poland. That Moscow meeting of foreign ministers was the first high-level Soviet-Polish meeting since martial law was decreed in Poland last month. In Poland, as we hear now from Bert Quent, the military rulers at least appear to be making that martial law a little less martial.
Week number 5 of martial law. Warsaw is quiet.
So too, authorities say, is the rest of the country. In the capital, there are few troops on the streets. Gradually, as the military becomes more confident that there will be no insurrection, controls are being relaxed. Local telephone service, blocked since martial law began, has been resumed. On many lines, before the connection is made, a recorded voice warns this conversation is monitored. Some domestic and international flights have been resumed. There are indications that solidarity, hit hard and fast in last month's crackdown, is regrouping. That new leaders are appearing underground to take the place of their detained colleagues. One sign is a flood of leaflets being passed hand to hand. One lists terms for reaching what its authors call a national understanding. Some of those terms, formulated according to the leaflet by members of Solidarity's executive committee, clearly would be unacceptable to military authorities. They include calling off the state of emergency, freeing all arrested and interned persons, publishing a list of all prisoners, restoring the right of social organizations to function openly, and establishing a tribunal to investigate reasons for imposition of the state of emergency. One Solidarity leader who escaped detention is Warsaw Regional Chief Zbigniew Bujak. He reportedly is safe and in hiding in Poland. A tape recording of his voice, said to have been made last month, is being circulated. Bujak urges union members not to provoke incidents which might get them killed. Form cells of about 10 persons each in the factories, he says, and prepare strikes demanding freedom for Lech Wałęsa and the abolition of martial law. Bert Quint, CBS News, Warsaw.
On this 25th day since the kidnapping of American General James Dozier, Pentagon correspondent Ike Pappas reports that plots by Red Brigade's terrorists to kidnap more U.S. officers have been uncovered. U.S. intelligence sources told CBS News that Admiral William Crowe, a NATO commander based in Naples, has been identified as a potential kidnap target. Crowe's personal security has been greatly increased, as has security for at least 11 other U.S. admirals and generals in Naples. As for General Dozier, Gary Shepard tells us tonight that investigators are hopeful about some new developments.
Over the weekend, police raided 3 apartments on the edge of Rome and arrested 9 Red Brigade's terrorists, including this man, Giovanni Cenzani, one of the top leaders of the organization's moderate wing. A huge supply of weapons was confiscated, including bazookas, machine guns, pistols, plastic explosives, and a Soviet-made anti-tank missile described by experts as state-of-the-art. While police were still inside, the doorbell rang and they made their 10th arrest. 27-year-old Franca Musi of Bologna, described by authorities as a messenger from the brigade's militant branch in northern Italy, the one believed to have kidnapped General Dozier 25 days ago. Police sources say documents found in her possession indicated the northern group was inviting Cenzani to collaborate in the interrogation of General Dozier. Here in Verona today, hundreds of police armed with rifles and submachine guns launched a new dragnet in several neighborhoods, including the district where Dozier was kidnapped, in search of the hideout where it is believed the terrorists are holding the NATO officer. But a thorough check of basements and cellars in particular failed to turn up any sign of what the terrorists call their people's prison.
There is a noticeable stir here tonight among those directing the Dozier investigation, and although they won't say so officially, the reason appears to be this. If the invitation carried by Franca Musi from Bologna to Rome is authentic, then General Dozier is probably still alive. Gary Shepard, CBS News, Verona, Italy.
The Reagan administration said today that it has decided not to sell advanced fighter planes to Taiwan. It said the island country has no military need for the new aircraft. That's a decision bound to win at least a few points with the mainland Chinese, who strongly opposed the proposed sales. Taiwan wanted to buy the General Dynamics F-16 or the Northrop F-5G fighters.
People say I have $1 million smile. Well, I should. Sometimes I think I invested that much in it. That's why I chew Freedent. Freedent is the one gum that won't stick to my dental work. And I love that fresh minty taste. Freedent gives me all the chewing pleasure I could ask for in a gum. And where my dental work's concerned, there's nothing tacky about it. With Freedent, the pleasure sticks. The gum won't.
No A1 steak sauce for my hamburger? Miss, some A1, please. Imagine a great place like this without A1 on the table.
Yeah.
Nothing like it on hamburgers.
You bet.
After all, what is hamburger? Chopped ham, it's chopped steak. What's better on steak than A1? A1 makes hamburgers taste like steak burgers.
I know, that's why I always have it at home.
So, why settle for less when you eat out?
You're right. Miss, some A1, please.
A1 makes hamburgers taste like steak burgers.
Ask for A1 at your favorite restaurant.
In a famous literary anecdote, the protagonist of Ernest Hemingway's The Snows of Kilimanjaro recalled a friend saying, "The very rich are different from you and me." To which the protagonist said, "Yes, they have more money." Still, novels and movies and television series prove there is an almost universal fascination with the way the rich live, particularly if there's a touch of scandal, or, as Morton Dean reports from Newport, Rhode Island, a charge of foul play.
For several generations, Newport has been synonymous with high society. The social register, not the preppy handbook, is the Bible here. Here, social climbing is done on the family tree. 4 days before Christmas, 1980, in this oceanside mansion, a beautiful heiress, Martha Von Bulow, known as Sonny, was found unconscious, in a coma. Now her home is this New York hospital. She's not expected to recover.
Stand back, please. Stand back.
It's not the butler who's the suspect. It's her husband. Danish-born aristocrat Klaus von Bülow is accused of attempting to murder his wife twice, on that day in 1980 and almost exactly a year earlier. Both times, it's alleged, Klaus injected his wife Sonny with a quantity of insulin, a potentially deadly substance for a person suffering, as Sonny did, from hypoglycemia, low blood sugar.
The charges that brought Klaus von Bülow here for the beginning of his trial today began with the suspicions of his wife's maid, Maria Schraulhammer. Suspicions shared by a prince and a princess, Mrs. von Bülow's 2 grown children from her 1957 marriage to an Austrian prince, a marriage that ended in divorce.
We have the defendant step forward, gentlemen.
Klaus stands to gain a fortune from her death. So do Sonny's 2 children, who would gain even more from her death and his conviction for attempted murder. Klaus's attorneys will not be distressed if the jury suspects a frame-up.
How do you plead? I'm not guilty.
TV coverage is permitted, so the trial has the look of prime time as well as real time. The key evidence expected to be weighed by the jury will be an injection needle, allegedly found in a tiny black bag, a bag owned by Klaus. The prosecution claims there were traces of insulin found on that needle. Klaus's attorneys say the evidence is purely circumstantial. A key hospital record concerning a test for the presence of insulin in Sonny's comatose body is reportedly missing. They say Sonny's coma was more likely triggered by eating too many sweets, from alcohol consumption, or from a self-administered overdose of aspirin or barbiturates.
You think there was a murder attempt?
No, I do not think so.
What happened in your view?
I think that it was a combination of her general physical makeup and that caused this unfortunate accident.
On the list of potential witnesses are 2 women allegedly linked to Klaus von Bülow and described as a prostitute and a girlfriend. Newport society is not amused by all this, by all the attention the case is receiving. The high walls and barbed wire and barking dogs are not only there to keep strangers out, but high society's secrets in.
Yes, hello, it's Morton Dean from CBS News. Is it possible to come on to the property?
They worry that not only is one of their clan on trial, but perhaps that their lifestyle will be on trial as well. Somewhere, Agatha Christie must be stirring, wondering how the mystery at Clarendon Court escaped her pen. She would have made a lot out of the black bag, the missing medical report, the suspicious maid, the titled stepchildren, the dashing Dane, the sleeping beauty, and the history of the mansion, written by the accused, Klaus von Bülow, and called A House and Its Ghosts. Morton Dean, CBS News, Newport, Rhode Island.
Take the natural break, the Nature Valley break.
We're ready for a break.
Nature Valley granola bars, a natural break.
100% natural. I look for that because not all granola bars are. No additives, no preservatives in this tasty, crunchy snack.
There's oats and honey, cinnamon, coconut, peanut,
and almond.
Take the natural break, the Nature Valley break. Nature Valley granola bars.
100% natural.
Welcome to TV Land. You name it, we got it. And if we don't got it, we can get it. Get it?
I think so. We'd like to see a Curtis Mathis.
Forget it. I can't get it.
I'm Curtis Mathis. You can buy most TVs just about anywhere. But you can only get a Curtis Mathis from someone qualified to sell and service it. A Curtis Mathis dealer. That makes us a little harder to find, but well worth the effort.
Curtis Mathis, the most expensive television in America, and worth it.
Comedian Paul Lynde, a regular performer on the long-running television game show Hollywood Squares, died over the weekend in Beverly Hills. Paul Lynde was 55. The three first and youngest victims of California's murderous mudslides were buried today. Barry Peterson reports from Colma, California.
Last night, Bill and Barbara Velez appeared for the first time to thank those who had offered sympathy and raised $50,000 to help them start all over.
We just wanted to thank everybody that was involved, everybody who helped, everybody who wrote, everybody who did what little bit they did or what much they did.
At the funeral today, the outpouring of sympathy continued. Friends, neighbors, even strangers came to mourn. In the three flower-draped caskets, 14-year-old Michelle, 9-year-old Billy, and Melissa. She was 3 and told friends proudly, "Next month, I'll be 4.
We are all wishing to be in heaven someday, and Michelle, Billy, and Melissa have gotten there first.
There were no words for this moment, only faces of sorrow and grief. Now it is time, said the priest, for the healing process to begin.
That's the CBS News for this Monday. Dan Rather reporting from New York. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Polydent presents Martha Ray, TV star, denture wearer.
You know, when I clown in front of that camera, this big smile needs something extra. Extra strength Polydent Green. It gets my dentures sparkling clean. Watch, tough lab stains. Now, extra strength Polydent. It's fantastic. Gets tough stains clean, even in between. So take it from a big mouth. Extra strength Polydent Green gets tough stains clean.
Mrs. Johnson, when you need an antacid, watch your salt. The Surgeon General's report says Americans get too much salt. So reach for Riopan Plus, a low-sodium, high-performance antacid. In laboratory tests, Riopan Plus neutralized acid 4 times faster than equal amounts of Maalox or Mylanta and worked longer to neutralize more acid. Doctors recommend Riopan Plus, a low-sodium, high-performance antacid. Riopan Plus.
From around the world and from CBS News headquarters in New York, this has been the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather. The following stations have supplied tape to the CBS Evening News tonight. This is CBS.
The bitter cold weather caused a lot of problems in our area, including a new record for power consumption. We'll have the story of our coldest day in 5 years coming up next.